I'm Skylar Kelly. I'm the co-founder and co-director of Kinonik. Kinonik is a micro-cinema and primarily 16 millimeter film collection. We have some 35 millimeter prints, but right now the majority of our stuff is 16. We've got over 2,000 16 millimeter prints. And we're not technically an archive, it's not perfectly climate controlled, and we don't do the sort of restoration work that an archive would do, but we do our best to preserve film. So we're in the business of conservation and exhibition primarily.
I'm Andy Graham. I was co-founder of Kinonik. I grew up in New Jersey and came to Maine in the 1970s. I went looking for some money to start this and discovered that Skylar wanted to do the same sort of thing. And he occupied the Movies on Exchange Street building. And oddly, I had been a projectionist in 1977 at the Movies on Exchange Street, so I had a certain intimate knowledge of what the booth had been like there and what it had been like to project film in that environment. So we joined forces and discovered that we had our ideas about the value of watching projected film as opposed to projected digital imagery were quite similar.
I had an opportunity to rent what used to be a one-screen cinema in Portland called the Movies on Exchange. And that was a venue that showed, I would say, the most foreign cinema that we had going on in Portland in from the 1970s until it shut down in 2010. Once they closed, there was no place in town regularly showing movies on film. And I saw that as a huge bummer for the city. I just love photochemical film, and I find that it's a more engaging way to watch a movie. So I decided to rent the space, and I reached out to a friend of mine, John Courtney, who is a co-founder of Space Gallery and a film programmer himself, and told him what I wanted to do. He hooked me up with Andy Graham, who's my co-director.
My name's Lena Barkley. I'm a student at BU, but I'm here interning for the summer. I'm really a big old film head, so I really love like classic cinema and that sort of thing, and I'm also interested in film production, and I've never really worked with physical like film before, so this seemed like a perfect opportunity to mesh those two interests in one internship. So far, the coolest part has just been to discover a lot of new films, well, old films, but new to me, and also just really get hands-on experience with working with film and learning about the archiving process. Yeah.
So we receive donations and we purchase films. When we purchase film, generally we know the quality before we get eyes on it. Donations are a much different bag. A lot of the work we do on a daily basis is processing those donations, which can be huge. I mean, when the University of Virginia gave us their collection, it was over 1,000 reels of film. And honestly, that was a couple of years ago, and we're still cataloging a lot of the shorts that they gave us. So we have a couple of machines called the CineScan, and a CineScan it basically has a small TV screen and a transport mechanism, a sound head. So it's a desktop viewer that allows you to set up a reel-to-reel. And when we get a new film, we throw it on the CineScan and evaluate it for quality. We look at the image, we listen to the soundtrack, we inspect the film stock in order to determine when it was made. We look at all the splices and damage. Perforations can be damaged. There can be tears that were repaired. So we look carefully to identify anything that would cause an issue in projecting the film. So old tape splices, old hot splices, things like that often need to be removed and then redone. There's special tape that one uses in order to repair damage to perforations. We clean it. So by the time we assign the film a number and put it on the shelf, we've probably done, I don't know, an hour to 2 hours of work for each film that gets donated to us. And that's if it doesn't need extensive repairs. And we meticulously catalog everything in the database so that we can, when programming the film, know exactly what to expect.
I wanted people, younger people, to have the same opportunity to see film on film and have the experience of sitting in an audience and watching things that were the predecessors and influencers of the films that they were watching now. You know, what informed Jim Jarmusch's films, what informed Quentin Tarantino films, you know, what were the films that they had watched, and how could I get those in front of people in a theatrical environment rather than in a, you know, watching them on a cell phone or watching them on TV at home or watching them on your computer, which is a very different experience because you can stop and you don't have the crowd around you and you don't have the ambiance, and you are bigger than the image rather than the image being bigger than you.
So we had a space upstairs here and then moved downstairs into this spot a couple of years ago and have since then primarily screened films here, and our direction forward is to make the best micro cinema we possibly can.
I think 16 millimeter is a very democratic format. In the same way that you all have access to everything via computers, 16 millimeter allowed people to have access to moving image for a long, long time before video became a democratized format in the mid-80s maybe? But from 1925, I think, 1924 until 1985, say, you know, the way that you accessed movies in these non-theatrical encounters was through 16 millimeter. And the other thing about it, it's simply that it's film, and film has its own quality of, you know, the way shadows look in film is really different than the way shadows look in video and digital. The way that noise looks is really different than the way grain looks. The way that a glitch looks, a scratch on a film or a glitch in video look very different. They have a different feel. You know, one is a hot medium and one is a cooler medium. You know, there are all those pieces that go into it. And for me, it's a return to youth because I spent years shooting and hand processing E6 film and handling film and cutting up film.
Andy and I both have this very deep appreciation of the photochemical process. So we can speak the same language when we're watching a film. You know, if Andy makes notes on a film that he's reviewed in the database, or I make notes about it, we're noticing the same things in the quality of the image. And that's, to me, pretty amazing. I think that I've met few people who can look at an image and understand at least most of how it got to look that way, if that makes sense.
The most rewarding part is that we've created a community, and I don't know that people come here because they're fans of the movie. They may show up here the first time because they're fans of the movie, but I think they keep coming because it feels good to be here, watching a film with other people. And they trust us, for the most part, to show them things that are going to be interesting and good. So, we don't, you create an atmosphere of trust with your audience by programming things that they know, and then things that maybe they don't know but are willing to come and see anyway. I think the message is that in the same way that, Skylar, what's the expression? The third place? In the same way that coffee shops years ago became the third place for people to be, I'd like to see art house cinemas become that third place as well. I think that creating camaraderie around things other than sports is good for us, and that seeing films that aren't about spectacle and special effects are good for us. I think that it's getting harder and harder to seriously engage with film, and creating spaces like Kinonik that are designed to slow things down is a really valuable option in a community. So I'd say if you see this and you go, oh, that's interesting, you can do it, because all you really need is, well, you don't need film really. All you need is a way to put an image on a screen and some chairs and inviting people, and then having them invite more people. And suddenly you've created a family that didn't exist before.